everyone. Can you see me okay? Give me a wave. I can see you. Well, I think we're just so excited. I've been playing that song by the Pointer Sisters and dancing round because I've got to see all my friends again and all my flowery friends. I'm so pleased to see you all. Now, I just got the title of Floral Connections because we want to get connected again. Do you agree? You can nod, you can put your thumbs up, I can see you. So, I've been really busy while we've been in lockdown. The first few weeks, I was like everyone else. I felt a little bit as though our identity had been taken away because we couldn't go anywhere, we couldn't do anything. And so we were really, you know, I did feel like a nobody. And then little bit by bit, started to connect with some people on the internet. I don't mean on Tinder. You know, I was just seeing my friends of NAFAS, etc. and realizing how many friends I've got, and I really miss them all. So the subtitle of my demonstration really should be what I do instead of housework, because I do play around with the flowers all the time. I can see you nodding there, Leslie. So I also, sometimes it made me feel a little bit old to see some of the younger or newer demonstrators showing things. And I thought, well, I feel like my mother did, because I think, well, we used to do that 20 years ago, you know. We used to do that when I was a girl, and we used to do that before. So you do find that things are coming back and being recycled. And so, and that's all very good for me. I think if we learn something, throw it away, that's a bad thing. So I like to keep things going. So I've done my piece of cork bark, actually. Can you see it nicely? And with the black wires. The black wires, the way that I learned to do that with Gregor Lersch, with Simon in a workshop, and we did that a while ago now. But it still looks beautiful today when we're using the test tubes with water in, and then I've decorated the top with some of the wire, just ordinary soft aluminium wire, twisted with wool to give it that lovely swirly pattern. So I think one of the best things about the summer, obviously, was the sun and the gardens and everything that we enjoyed. And I did go out and find quite a lot of wildflowers growing just like on the side of the road that were, I would have probably not noticed last year, but I think we were like heightened our senses, didn't it? Being locked in and then being allowed to go for one little walk a day. So I like doing this sort of delicate design, finding things from the hedgerow, the side of the road mainly. This is actually the tips of a very new shoots of eucalyptus. And I should be mentioning a few people who've given me some foliage. I did explain that it will just be in my dining room and we won't be having any big grand finale. So this friend, she had chopped down a 40-foot eucalyptus and she had built a little man, a flower pot man, and she christened him Terracotta. He was a lovely big flower pot man and he was sitting on the trunk, but then all these shoots had come and we didn't think actually that they would stand up because they are so fresh and new, but I've had them cut about 3 days and they're doing fine. So just, this looks pretty much the same both ways, just sort of dancing around with that lovely light foliage.
It looks so lovely, Jane. It looks lovely. It looks lovely, Jane. We just thought I'd give you some feedback because it must be lonely there in your dining room.
I really, really want some feedback. please send messages. Amanda will shout them out to me.
I sure will. Please do.
So, just discovered today that Amanda lives about 100 yards away from me. Perhaps 200.
Yeah, I think you're right, yes. Not far at all.
So it's a copy because the wildflowers have gone over. I've got this Amy something, what's it called? So I'm just copying the cow parsley really. But when you have to go and buy it from the wholesalers, it costs as much as the most fantastic roses. These little light, airy things that are just floating over the top there. And of course, this is so easy to refresh. The flowers in here, because they're in water, they just carry on lasting. They're the best thing. Flowers in water is still the best thing, I have to say. I've got some, all the names of the flowers have suddenly gone out of my head. I'm sure some of you will understand that. I'm rusty, for sure. That smells delicious. It smells like Achillea. Perhaps it is. It's a lovely red one. So it's good to have connections with people who have gardens. That's a good thing to say. And mine is quite small, but throughout the summer, I did enter some online competitions, which I'll tell you about in a minute. And everything I did was just recycled things from the garage, reusing, recycling, and also only my own materials from my own garden. Quite often they didn't have many flowers in, to be fair. So I knocked the door of a neighbour and asked if I could possibly have, she belongs to the Rugby Flower Club, and she has got millions of these. Have you got those in your garden? These are the anemones. And some of the ones I picked, she said, go ahead. She's got so many. She's going to chop them all down in a few weeks' time, and I'm allowed to go and have some. I picked the ones that just had the little, I think they're the old centres of the flowers. Anybody got that growing in their garden? And it's along, doesn't it? Hers is in a gravel path. I've got some, but mine are like precious, and I only got a few. So I was very glad that she said I could have them. So I'm hoping you can see those lovely layers. The first layer, I'm building up so that it gets a little bit higher. This would look nice with anemones. These are anemones. I'm thinking of ranunculus in the springtime. I think I would like to do that. And it's amazing how many, when you pick the right flowers for the job, how many flowers you can get in a little test tube. Because they've all got fine stems and they've been chosen, obviously, by me, to be the right flowers for the job. And I found these really long lasting because I did have a trial last week. Can you see those okay? I think you'll have to put your thumbs up. I'm going to just put in some steel grass, not steel grass, bare grass. Steel grass would be a little bit too tall. I did go to our local wholesalers because Simone did allow me a flower allowance. That was like, I was looking forward to it so much, but a bit of a disappointment because I haven't been. Everything was very properly organised, so we had to go in a one-way system. Well, I'm used to going back and having another look and changing my mind and swapping them around, and we weren't allowed to do that. Also, there was half as much to choose from and nearly twice as much cost. So all in all, it was a bit of a disappointment, but I have got some treats for you later. And of course, there are treats for me too. It's no raffle. But I did think, you know, you didn't have to go to club early. You didn't have to put your scarf on the seat and put a little badge saying reserved for all your friends. You can be just like the area chairman in the front row tonight and enjoying the front row seat. Also, of course, you can be enjoying a glass of wine. I hope you are, or even a cup of tea. So this really is something that I like, the look of putting things in water, and it smells delicious in my room. That's one thing I can definitely tell you. We need just a little bit more of that height.
We've had a comment from Beverly that we can see clearly the layers, so that's quite nice, the different layers that you're using.
You can?
Yes, we can, thank you.
I'm going to take some pictures to send to everyone. Probably it'll be in the morning now when it's going to be daylight to take some nicer photos. I think that then, instead of being a nervous wreck and putting the flowers in, I might be able to have a little bit of time to make sure they're placed beautifully. But I hope you like this first one.
Yes, lovely. Thank you so much.
Now, I've got no assistant here. And so I shall be running in and out a little bit. You'll have to talk amongst yourselves then. But the second thing I was going to make is like a simple, again, or perhaps the most obvious thing we would do to make flowers without foam. And that is to make a hand-tied design. So I hope you can see this one. I've made a frame with a spiderweb shape. Can you see that? We have 12 wires, which we bind together. Quite heavy, 18 mil. And then you split them into twos. And you join the pair, a pair, 6 pairs. And then you swap them, their legs over to the next one. And make that mesh. It's really quite sturdy. And then I've made a frame of soft willow and some little crab apples. Now, this is probably the thing I was dreading most, to have to make a hand tied with you all watching me. Because, again, I don't want to spend too much time altering it, so I'd like everything to go in where I would like it to be first time. So I gave that a little spray of some white, some green, because the willow was so yellow, and for this I thought yellow looked a little bit too bright, so I toned it down a bit. This is some big beautiful smelling eucalyptus from Simon's garden. It felt like such a treat to go and visit someone socially distanced in her garden on Wednesday. And we talked about what might happen in the future. And, you know, we're glad that people are starting to think of safe ways to meet again. Oh, this smells lovely as I'm breaking off the eucalyptus leaves. So I've just put a soft collar around there. And then I actually got some garden material of my own. Some of the lovely Snecchia. Now the frame does help you. I mean, if you're hopeless, you'll probably still be hopeless, even if you use a frame. But actually, it can help, because this one will make them lie down to the side. I'm still trying to do a spiral, but you can aim things into position with a frame in your hand. We still need no leaves below the time point. So I did this one to, again, as I say, show our main way of putting flowers without foam is with putting them in straight into water. We couldn't have a September demonstration without our beautiful hydrangeas, could we? I saw some of the big grandiflora when I was out with my granddaughter, and she said they look like brains. She's only 5. She calls them the brain flowers now. They do look a bit like brains.
They're beautiful, Jane. We've got some questions actually. Somebody, yes. Leslie said, what a lovely frame. And yes, it must be hard with everybody looking on so closely. And Kath is saying, where can you get the wire from to make the frame, please?
The wire? Well, I'd have to say that it's recycled. Well, as in, I didn't buy it for this particular demonstration. It's one of those things that's been in the cupboard. Simone did get it for me, because it's all so long. And if any of you have been on a workshop with Gregor, that's how long ago it was, probably 10 years old, those wires have been waiting to be used. So they're quite heavy. And so what we'll have to do is find out where you can get them from. You can order them from your wholesaler, but they may not be in regular stock. It's a little cabbage going in there. And a lily. So I'll find out and I'll send the messages to you tomorrow. I would say that's going to be in the middle, but sometimes you shouldn't say, because it might not end up in the middle, might it? Now they are just smelling so beautiful. I am still trying to go around with my spiral. Get some more of that dainty cottagey feel. It's quite hard sometimes with us who've trained in doing things in patterns to see the randomness of modern floristry. It's quite hard to achieve it sometimes, because we're used to doing things by design. Just a little bit of my sedum. It's undervalued, isn't it, that sedum? I think so. It's often just stays green for so long, and then suddenly mine is now pink. So I'm getting the bees on it. So it didn't end up in the middle, did it, after all? And I must say that our secretary, Amanda, has done so much for getting together all of you tonight, that when I finish the demonstration, I'm going to deliver these to you, Amanda, and you shall have the fragrance in your...
Thank you so much. That's a delight.
Because I looked at it and I thought, well, I should like to have a gift of that, so I shall make a gift of it to you.
You're very generous. Thank you so much. We've had a comment to say from Kath to say that she's seen hydrangeas in French garden centres called hortensias.
Yes, hortensia is what the Dutch call them when they're grown in a pot. And hortensia is what they call them.
And
so I don't know whether it's as a cut flower, it has a different name in the market, but definitely hortensia is what the Dutch growers call the hydrangeas.
Beverly's saying it's the same in Madeira as well, that they call them hortensia there.
Well, the thing is, when I've had a little group of friends who had a kind of a garden group going over the lockdown, and they asked me lots of questions, and they were always wanting to call their flowers by their common name. And I tried very hard to persuade them to learn the Latin names. And that is because we are a global family of gardeners and flower rangers. And the smallest mistake in ordering a plant, you could have a tiny purple plant or a great big giant brown plant because you got the name wrong. So I think we must always try and think about using the Latin names. It's so that when our demonstrators used to come from abroad, they would send us a flower list and it would be universal language, wouldn't it? Well, do you know what? I think you've probably got enough in there. So, a little flourish of a bunch of beargrass in there, I think. But at one time, we had a demonstrator, tutor, if you like, and he specified type of head of a hydrangea. And we all paid all the money to make sure we had the one he specified. But then one of our ladies turned up with something from her garden instead. He much preferred that one. And we all said, well, we could have all got one of those instead of paying £7 for the one you asked us to buy. So I've never forgotten that day. So it's always okay to sort of use your own initiative and think about the effect that the flower or plant will give. I'm just cutting them off, it's a bit noisy. Trimming off the stems and just put them in a drink of water. Nice mixture there of some cabbage and some natural looking flowers, which I hope you like.
It's beautiful. He's saying that is a beautiful hand tie. Thank you so much.
Has anyone else got any comments? Or just a question for me?
I haven't got any at the moment, so I'd encourage you, if you're watching, please try and use the chat. It's quite simple to use. You just need to type in. It can either be privately or to us all, and I can just read what you've put to Jane, because obviously she can't see being so far away from her screen. So please do. It'd be lovely to hear from you.
So next, we're hurrying through. Are we okay for time?
No, we're about halfway through, to be honest.
I've asked Amanda to make sure I don't go over time. We thought, I dreaded you have 5 minutes left was a bit unkind, so we wouldn't have that one. So you may have gathered that I'm trying to do the entire demonstration without using any Oasis foam. So the first one, the little glass test tubes, and then the hand tie going into the thing, into water. So I'm just showing you a little novelty that I posted on Facebook to our international friends. And this is cardboard. I'll just show you. Can you see that? It's folded up cardboard.
That's a good view. Thank you, Jane. That's a great view. Thank you.
So it's tightly packed into there. and it's got water in. So I had lots of comments, and I can say that it's basically fine. You can see it's a square container, it's quite small. So I only had quite small materials, and it wasn't a giant arrangement. But if you've got stems, put them in. I wanted them to be able to go upright, because obviously we all know about our grandmothers using chicken wire, and we use chicken wire, but it would generally be a kind of relaxed, the stems going all over. So I wanted them to be able to stand up straight and do our parallel sort of modern design. So it worked out fine. It does absorb the water, and it does evaporate quite quickly. So you have to top it up practically every day. But the thing stayed in place. It didn't move around. It didn't go soggy. It didn't go to mush. It was fine. I had another arrangement nearby that had been done in foam, and it was a little bit better, but it was quite good. Now these little blue hostas come from the garden of Caroline Thompson, who is the president of the Woolscott Flower Club, and she invited me to her garden, which is rather grand. Some of you will know it. And she lives in Woolscott Manor. But she's extremely generous and extremely keen to share. Now, she had her little hostas. She was disappointed that I didn't need giant ones with long stems, because I wasn't doing the big stage presentation. But, and only she, I have to say, she told me to tell you about her cure or her prevention for the slugs. Oyster shells. Have you seen these before? I said I was going to keep them in a little jar because they were so pretty. And she said, no, you must put them by the hostas to stop the slugs coming. But they're going to stay in a little jar. It's called Oyta, O-Y-T-A. And it's actually to mix with chicken feed to give them calcium to make shells for their eggs. But she's got so many stories. I do think that the people of her club should get her to do a chat. These fabulous hydrangeas, hortensia.
We've got some nice comments coming through, Jane. What a lovely way to spend a Friday evening. Thank you, says Valerie Best.
Oh, do you know what? I'm just so pleased to be here. I suppose I've just been looking forward to this for so long. I really did nag Simone. Please, can I do a dem?
Well, Pat has said we're all clapping for you, Jane, from Knoll Flower Club. And what a lovely hand-tied arrangement that was. What did you use to tie it with?
I just put Oasis tape on today because it was soft, and wouldn't do any harm to the stems, and it would be quick, and I wouldn't have to hold it in my teeth. I'm just using. Carry on. Sorry.
Did you pre-soak the cardboard?
Oh no. You want the cardboard nice and dry. But I have had it wet since this morning, if that's what you mean. So the cardboard goes in as flat and as much as you can get in. I zigzag it, concertina it, pop it in tight. And then this morning when I'd done it, I then put the water in.
Leslie is asking, does it go to mush or does it smell?
It doesn't smell. It doesn't smell at all. I'm guessing that if you had card that had ink, you should avoid that, because that's the way it would probably have some poison in it, in the ink, and also that might make a smell. But actually didn't, and I used in my little design some lavender, but it still didn't, and I have it on a shelf halfway down my staircase, And I sniffed it every day just so I could tell you. It didn't smell. It won't smell. The lily will give us the fragrance this time, just in there. And I'm afraid it doesn't move around that much. It does kind of give up the ghost after a week, and then I threw it away. But you can just throw the whole thing away because the wet compost, the wet cardboard can go in there. So this again is from Carolyn's garden. You might recognise that. It's called mountain spinach. Anybody know it? It just grows in her borders everywhere, in all the cracks. And so I've also got some plants to grow for next year. It grows really tall. It can grow about 5 foot high. And in amongst the other things, like growing up tall through your shorter materials in the border.
There's a question, does the water run out of the sides of that arrangement?
No, because who asked that?
Oh, Brenda.
Because the clever people who made this container put a plastic inner inside it.
Well, we weren't quite sure.
No, well, I love questions. Let's have some more. Promise not to laugh at you.
But we've got comments that this would be great for a class, you know.
For a
class, you know, for a club
do you know about the thing about our connections, our floral connections? It really has been amazing to belong to a group that's worldwide. And there, I had a reconnection with one of my friends, Linda Reynolds. Just excuse me a minute. And she, she left rugby and went to live in Australia quite a while ago. But she saw this idea, and today she has had a group of her flower club in her garden, and they have been playing with this. And she sent me a picture, and she had made it quite tall, but so she's going to let me know how it goes. So I'll just use that purple to pick up the centre of the lily. So that really I wanted a table that was much longer and wider because I was going to put on it my friends that I'm connected with. Make sure they're all the right way around. And I was going to do some twigs, some formium, and link them together. Shall we do that?
Yes, let's do it. We've got some more comments. This is a fabulous idea. And thank you, Jane, for a wonderful evening so far. I want to thank you to me, which is lovely. Thank you so much. Yes, friendship through flowers around the world. That's the main thing.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, this is all new. It's something good that has come from the disastrous last few months that we've had to endure and are still enduring. But I think that new friendships, and what has happened for me as well, I belong to a ladies' choir, and everyone knows about that who knows me, because I'm always talking about it. Now, this is not a choir at the church. We belong to a barbershop a cappella choir of over 60 ladies. We have so missed being together, but I set up a flower arranging class, and for all the novices, I can tell you, they have become my new flower arranging group, and they've even entered a local competition, and one of them won a prize. So that's my floral connection of Me and my two friends anyway.
Jane, can you hold it? Can you hold it? Because I think we've got some people that just like to take a little photo of it, which if that's okay.
Yes, I will put some good pictures on.
Yeah, okay,
for
that's fine.
Facebook tomorrow.
Yeah, okay. I
Is
should
that
think.
any better?
Yeah. Thank you.
So now we get to some fun things. Ta-da. Might move my table back so you can see the top. Can you see the top? No.
Not quite, but we can see most of it. Yeah, just about there. Just about there. Thank you.
Well, this is Corylus avellana contorta, or it's the twisted hazel. I can't see to get the spotlight, but these are from the Flower Club. Is that worse or better?
That's perfect, thank you.
So the first thing I wanted to make for my own sake before I started to plan the demonstration was to do this design. The urn is a real cast iron one, and these fantastic twigs that came from Caroline's garden. So this is me indulging myself. I put little glass tubes around and tied them on. You have to excuse the box. Hide it a little bit. And of course, when you go to the wholesalers and haven't got quite what you wanted, that's when actually other things happen, isn't it? Because you get something else instead, and that's how it goes. And with a lot of the things, as I said, being a certain price, these were my bargains. Look at these. Aren't they lovely?
A fabulous colour.
And because they were this colour, for some reason, half price, they're probably not popular with the general public. Just me. So I wanted to really have some leaves of calathea, something as a strong, solid shape to go in this construction, because it is so light.
Jane,
I watched a demonstration where the demonstrator had got a lovely tall design, and then talked about bringing the weight down. But I will do the opposite. I want it all to be lifted up, and for us not to have our feet down on the ground, for us to be just going up. And often something I would aim for is like improbability. When people would have to have another look to see how you did something, I think that if we hide our mechanics, even though there's glass tubes, they're quite well hidden. That's two equally placed with that one. Let's bring it down. Oh yes, inside. So this one has got concrete, cement, and the stems are set in cement. And that does mean that this is going to be fabulous for me to use at Christmas time. And then I have to give this back, by the way. So I'm just going to move that one because it's just too similar to the last one. So these are lovely rusty colours. This is actually quite an old, like old dirty copper colour. These are some little berries of Hypericum. All the leaves fell off, but it's exactly the same old rustic colour So I practiced this yesterday, and I was so excited about it. Hope you like it as much as me. So something else that is so evocative of this time of year. Who didn't have these on their nature table in the classroom? The lovely physalis and the Chinese lantern. I think this was the one thing that was on my wish list and I managed to get it.
Jane, we've had some questions.
Yes.
About the internet competitions that you spoke about earlier. People are quite interested to know about those, because I think, you know, quite keen to get involved.
Well, first of all, I saw the one that was then called Friends of NAFAS, and that was from my own indulgence. Valerie Best organised it, and of course her team. I'm going to tell you about this in the next design. So I just saw it on the Facebook page and I thought, can I do that? That was how I first started being interested in looking on the page, because I thought, yes, I need something to do. I need to challenge myself, trying to not be behind this all the time. Bringing the colour up through there. Can you see the colours? Is that okay? And so it was just wonderful, because I've always enjoyed competing. And sometimes people are quite negative about competitions. They say, well, I'm not competitive. But that's not really what it's about. It's just a challenge of yourself, rather than just arranging flowers that look beautiful, to try and create something to tell a story. And to make sure people can understand your story. Just going to put some light feathery materials in there. So that was the start of that one. I did one, and I enjoyed it so much. I had to reorganise all my furniture, because the hardest thing of some of the competitions in the virtual competition is you have to take a photograph, and you don't want to see the plugs, and you don't want to see the door frame. And you don't want to see parts of your home. You just want a nice plain background. And it's so difficult to achieve that. That's another thing that my group have found. Yeah, they didn't understand when I first started to say, well, you know, could you find a plain wall? One of my friends says, you know my house, I don't have plain walls. It's highly decorative and there's flowers everywhere. So she even had to take her arrangement next door to someone else's sister's house so that she could take a plain picture. So I took some pictures and I enjoyed it so much that I had a look and I was allowed to do another one. So off I set and did another one, and then another one. So I just got totally hooked on it. Reminded me of days of going to wonderful NAFAS competitions. And so I was very happy about that. I then actually saw an ad, not an ad, a plea, saying, could somebody just do this other little class? I say little because it was a small scale design. And then another one in a teacup. So I did that as well. I did 5 altogether. And I think I got a prize for everything. I had something like 2/3, a second and a first prize. And my first prize was for using no foam, and it was a design just using test tubes and a big glass fluted vase. So then I had my little group of ladies. I secretly entered them into a competition. And that was run by Leek Flower Club. And it was open to everyone. It was only one class. So I'm desperately looking all the time I've entered into the South African Flower Union, and something I have learned though, that just as I have entered a WAFA show in Boston, but I didn't notice it so much then. But the styles are so, so different. We have a lot of similarities, just putting these little tiny gerbers in. We have a lot of things in common with the people around the world, but we all have our own sort of, I think, style still. When I'm looking on the page, I can tell which one has been done by a UK exhibitor. Quite often, let's put that nicely inside there, it's quite as simple as the fact that it's got green in it. Do you agree? Because we like green.
Mm.
Our green and pleasant land is something I hadn't quite noticed so much until you see exhibits from different countries.
There's a question or two, Jane. How is the wood secured in the urn? Is one of them.
In cement.
In cement. And also, would it be possible for details of the competitions to be circulated to flower clubs via NAFAS, do you think?
Well, we put it on Facebook, and I'm disappointed to say that people don't look. That I know Facebook has a bad reputation of being something that just, you know, young people use all the time and waste their hours on. But actually, that's where a lot of the information was, and our area had the details of the South African one and the Valerie's one, and our local Amanda Punter is in charge, if you like, of our media, and that's where I found it. It's not a secret, and so there's one running at the moment. Perhaps Valerie can tell about that. It's lovely. So there's a competition running at the moment that goes on till the 20th of this month, called Six of the Best, which was a shame really, because it's actually about the six that could have been the worst 6 months of your life really. And you can do anything you like and anyone can enter. So details again are widely available. So I could play around with it forever. It's got some orchids to go in. All these lovely greeny orange colours, but if anyone specifically wants to know, I'm sure that by tomorrow everyone will have the details.
There's a few latecomers to the Dem, Jane, so I'm just going to let some of them come in.
Okay.
I think we're going to have close to...
So I buy a quick drying cement called Postcrete. I use it a lot in various things, and it's just like in the olden days, ladies, when we used to make a topiary tree with a little flower pot and a broom stale and set it in plaster of Paris or concrete. So my little twigs were all set in there, and they were bound together a little bit. The thing about glass tubes as well, they can be used as a mechanic because you can put them between twigs and attach them, and then it makes the whole thing quite stable. So there's my autumn urn.
Lovely. Thank you.
I'm just having some gin.
Just welcome our latecomers. Sorry it's taken some time to let you in. We've been so taken up by Jane's demonstration. I think my attention was averted from my admin duties, so sorry about that, everybody.
Well, I'll try and see what we can do at the end to show. Right, I'll show you these first. Whoops. Can you see that one? Can you see it? Thumbs up.
Yes, we can. I can see that perfectly fine. That's beautiful.
I thought when it was in the wholesalers that it was a giant crocosmia, and it kind of is, but it comes from South Africa, and it's called Chasmanthe Saturnus, or cobra lily. You see why it's called that, can't you? It's like the head of a cobra. These were another bargain that I didn't set out to buy. I just love them. So, going back to this frame, I've recycled the idea of, showing you the plot. I've seen a few things about using Medalino sticks and binding them, but this again is wool wrapped onto soft aluminium wire. This has been recycled, it's been in competitions, it's been unwound, wound up again. It's been in a montage, it's been just in a box for a few years. So I have totally recycled it. The stand, this again is on my theme of connecting and connecting two sides there, or connecting all my friends. And this, we went to an imposed class at our area contemporary design group. And in the imposed class, there were three separate groups. Some had beautiful glassware, and some had a different kind of beautiful vase. And then there was the black stand with three actually, I cut the leg off one day. 3 things and a candle holder on the top. Well, I was not happy because I got the metal frame with the candle holders. And all the girls had the martini glasses and all the beautiful things. Simone was responsible, I believe, for the shopping. And, you know, I have used it so many times. It's even been in my suitcase to places. I had the middle leg taken out a long time ago. I have circles that are attached to it, and it's light, but just strong enough to take to demonstrations. So what I first thought was the worst thing I could have been given turned out to be a good friend for a very long time. The glass would have been broken by now, wouldn't it? Most likely. So these are, again, this was ordinary willow. I do have a very good friend who works where they grow some willow for the biofuel. And she just goes in at lunchtime and picks me some. So it's lovely and springy and useful. And then I sprayed it black. Got some Muhlenbecker vine and black, just plastic tubes painted this time. So I thought I would turn it slightly sideways, get my wonderful silhouette. Now in the garden, in Caroline's garden, she was very proud of lots of dahlias, but on the day I went, they had been blown down and battered. And these are the last 2. So we're having these today. Now I've got several different types of tubes in here actually. Some are the ones that have got a long extended pointy bit. I don't think I can get one out to show you, but it's here and it's wrapped in sisal. It's the sort of thing you, if you're me, you buy because you think you must have it. And then 5 years later, you've never had it out of the box because you didn't really need it. But we get carried away when we go to shows, don't we? So as we haven't got all dahlias, I've just got this red Gerber. But wouldn't it be nice to just go off to Bournemouth or Harrogate and meet up? I wonder if we'll ever do that again. Of course, last year was in London. So just starting to put in some of those reds to go on the dramatic black background. I've got some roses, and I'm very guilty of never remembering the names and making one up. Usually use my sister's name if I'm asked. But these are called Sempervera, I think. I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget. Primavera, which seemed like a strange name for a peachy colour rose. It's a little bit like the peach avalanche, isn't it? I'll turn that around so I can just to lighten up the colour scheme, putting in these roses. They actually have a fragrance, which is quite unusual. And they also have a lot of thorns. Quite often orange roses are thorny. So having tubes, I'm trying to show you really that you can do different styles without using foam. The flowers will quite like it. Now I've got to see how I can use these cobra lily to go in here. They've got a lovely arching stem. And so we're mixing something from the English countryside in beautiful honeysuckle in with South African plants. I think that's wonderful.
And what have you used to wrap around the curls on the frame, the red colours that are matching with your flowers?
It's wool. Jane Fox gives me wool. She's one of those knitters, and I'm sure you all know one, who loves to buy wool. Sometimes it never gets knitted. And she is the best person. She always tells me never buy any. So we have done a workshop, used that thing before. As I say, they can come out, they can stand up high, you can wrap it round, you can use it as a mechanic to twist around your plants to keep them in place. And it's just wool.
Was it similar in the first design? Because that
yes, it was exactly the same. Exactly the same. And the white of the one in the first design I did with a group of the NAFAS group 3 years ago when they went to the Marriott in Leicester, and we made headdresses with the twisted wool. That's when we had Nikki Chapman, who was around then. She visited us, and I made her a headdress which she put in her hair with roses. So these things are not new ideas, not always new, but used in a different way. Can you see that wonderful stem and the colour of that? Oops, it's a bit wobbly. I put the tubes at an angle, but of course then the water drips out, so you have to be a bit careful. I think it has a lovely fragrance. So perhaps when you look at this design, you can think about how what story it might interpret. I used the wool recently in the South African competition. Haven't had a result yet, but looking at it, I can see that my photograph is really poor. And if it had been in a real competition, I can tell the judges now, would have been disqualified because it was too big. It was too wide. But I was so excited to do it. It's happened before in my life. When you're so excited to do something, you don't read all the rules properly. I bet you've all been there at some point. I went into a competition once. I was so excited to go and see the results. And there they all were in the line of the staging. And why hadn't I noticed that mine was sticking up 6 inches above the staging, out of size? Well, I didn't make that mistake again. It's quite one show that where I won a prize in Telford, you might remember. I had got Pam Fleming Williams measuring again, and measuring again to make sure I hadn't made a mistake. So it's going to use some really wayward pieces of Remind Me from Simone's Garden, the scented. Well, I've forgotten. People do wonder what I've done with all the leaves. I've taken them off. It's drawing with plant material that I like to do. I've nearly finished. You can, of course, leave without us knowing.
Would it be jasmine that you're using?
I just made some strings of these, and nice and dangly, to attach over the top of it. This again is something you can do instead of the housework. It's got a few more of those to put on. These will, of course, don't need any water because they will dry out. I'll be able to keep them for a while. I'm sure I've not said all the things that I intended to say, mainly because it's quite lonely in your own house without anybody talking back to you.
Well, we're all here for you, Jayne, and we're loving it. So thank you so much. We've had some fantastic comments.
Well, our area would appreciate knowing if you thought it's been worthwhile, if you've enjoyed it, and if you found that it's a good way to get back in touch with your friends. We're going to perhaps do some more, dare I say. So that's the end of my demonstration, and these are my connections between my friends all around NAFAS. Thank you all for watching.